All right, Super Stallions, today we're gonna start working on Square One Art. I'd like you to think about a few things before you get started. First of all, your Square One Art paper has room for writing at the top. Please leave that blank. Please don't do any writing at the top. Leave that for me. The next thing to think about is to draw big, sketch softly, and to really think about shape. Okay, so let's think about the big things we want to focus on in our Square One Art picture. The first one is that we want to draw big. So if I'm thinking about this hummingbird right here, I want it to kind of take up most of my paper, and then the background should be the rest of my paper. So drawing really big is a key piece, and sketching really lightly is a key piece, and then really thinking about shape. So I'm going to start by sketching out my hummingbird, and I'm going to look at its body. Please don't assume that you should be drawing a hummingbird, because that's what I'm doing. What I want you to think about is how I'm sketching my shapes lightly. Now, if I draw it like this, I notice I drew it a little bit too big. I'm not gonna be able to fit the tail on the edge of my paper, and I kind of want that tail. So lucky for me, I sketched lightly. I can go ahead and erase it. If you draw really softly, you can erase as much as you need to. Or if you draw really softly, you can just kind of sketch things out so that you don't even need to worry about erasing. So I'm gonna try a little bit smaller. So I'm thinking about the shape of its head and the shape of its body. And then I'll fit that tail shape in there. And then I can play with that a little bit. Because I sketched it lightly, I can absolutely go back and say, okay, well, I think it's a little rounder right here, or it comes out a little bit. The hummingbird's neck comes out a little bit more right here. Since I'm sketching softly, I can do that. I'm not even worrying about little details yet, like these little feet. I'm just gonna worry about shape right now. So there's its beak, and I'm gonna start to sketch in its wings. And I'm gonna stop there and show it to you when I've got a little further along. Okay, so my hummingbird is a little further along. Before I decide about next steps, I need to address my background. And if I had drawn this hummingbird a little bit smaller, maybe it would be getting some nectar from a flower. I can make any kind of decisions I'd like about the background, but it's important to think about it. The hummingbird can't be in the middle of nowhere. Maybe it's flying from a branch, maybe it's in a garden. Whatever I want it to be is fine, but it just can't be in the middle of nowhere. So you need to think about that background, and you need to address it before you bring it to Mrs. Reed and talk about next steps. Think about what kind of space would be interesting. Think about where you would see that object, especially when we take images off the internet. We need to think about how we're going to change that image to make it ours. So I seem to be thinking that maybe the hummingbird is just flying through the sky. Maybe there's another hummingbird near it. Any kind of decision you'd like to make is great, as long as you're thinking about the whole background and how the picture is going to be interesting. Okay, I've refined my hummingbird's background a little bit. I added some bee balm, which is a flower that hummingbirds can get their proboscis into. I've defined the shape of my clouds a little bit. My hummingbird's background is full, and I'm ready to move on to next steps once Mrs. Reed approves my image.